Hello, I'm Peter Towers, Managing Director of Towers Business Development. Thank you for joining us today on this conversation on research and development, because it is truly the start of the innovation journey that many of you in business can make. Research starts with an idea. It might have come out of a think tank environment where a business has put 2 or 3 people together to think of a concept, or it might be a casual thought that someone has had at some stage. It could have been very early in the morning, and you will be very keen to see how that relates to your business activities. You might be working from home, or you may have been in a lockdown and you've created an idea of something that could work within your business to help you in your environment. So I hope that you're able to understand the process that we're looking at here, and utilize that knowledge to commercialize the process that you've been working on. So in the start, you need to create a project. What are you trying to achieve? Has it got some commercial value? There's a need to do some preliminary investigations, because you need to establish that this product is not already being utilized somewhere else in the world. There's government grants that are available, but you must be a company to access these. And you have to comply with the research and development rules, which is spelled out in the Tax Act and in proclamations made by AusIndustry. There is a minimum annual research and development expenditure. It's $20,000 if you are going to be able to claim the rebate. You have to register with AusIndustry and with the Australian Taxation Office. The AusIndustry registration has to be made no later than 10 months after the end of the financial year, which for a 30 June year is the 30th of April the following year. But if you want to lodge your tax return earlier, and many companies do, you have to have already registered with AusIndustry when you lodge that tax return. The claim is specified in the tax return. That's the financial claim for what has been involved. And this will only work if there's a system. There needs to be a system, because research and development is being undertaken on a self-assessment basis. You have to keep the records, and it might be 3 to 4 years' time before your company's called upon to produce those records. The payment that you can get if your turnover's under $20 million, the rebate is 43.5% of the eligible research and development expenditure. And if your turnover is under $20 million and your company is trading at a loss, you can claim the cash equivalent of the rebate as a cash refund. And this is normally paid by the Taxation Office within 30 days of the company lodging its tax return, subject to the company's public officer having ticked the box which indicates you'd like to receive that refund. If your turnover is over $20 million, the non-refundable rebate is 38% of the R&D expenditure. So turnovers over $20 million, irrespective of whether you're running at a loss or not, you cannot claim the cash equivalent. That's only available for turnovers under $20 million. So where do you start? There's a necessity to undertake some research throughout the world. So you basically use the internet and contact with other organizations to make sure that no one's got any prior art or literature registered. You need to document the search results that you have undertaken. You need to list the core activities that you're proposing to undertake, because you're going to undertake the research projects. There must be a core activity for each research and development project. And you need to be able to clearly identify the new knowledge that you believe your research is going to be able to identify. But you need to be able to state that you didn't know what this would be at the beginning before you start the work. You need to identify an hypothesis or an hypotheses if you've got more than one. And this is a positive statement of the belief that the experimentation will then set out to prove or disprove. Now, you don't have to be successful in the research and development experiments to claim the research and development incentive rebate. The main thing is that you identify what your hypothesis is, you go through the process, you document your experiments, and then you're able to make the claim of the 43.5%. You need to be able to identify the team that's going to work on the project, because you need to make sure that they have signed their confidentiality agreements and assignment of intellectual property agreements, and that these agreements directly relate to them being part of a team undertaking research and development. Why? This research might turn out to be the start of a very valuable product that's been developed by your company. You need to make sure that the ownership rules are clearly established. If you're going to give your team members part of the ownership, that's okay, as long as you've documented it. But you shouldn't be leaving it loose. It should be bedded down as to what the deals are. You may be engaging external professionals, whether they're university teams or other consultants. The same thing applies. You need to have confirmed with them what their agreement is, that they've signed confidentiality agreements and assignment of intellectual property agreements, if that's part of the deal. Won't always be. You could apply for an advanced finding, which basically means that the company submits full details of what it intends to do in research and development, which goes to the tax office and Oz Industry. And those organisations will get back to the company over the next 6 to 8 weeks to advise whether they agree that if you carry out that work, it will be claimable as an R&D rebate item. Gives you some certainty. The company just needs to be able to clearly document everything it's going to do and submit that to the government agencies and await their approval. A lot of people don't like that delay process. They want to get on with it. An overseas finding is a document that has to be lodged if you intend or have undertaken some of the research and development activities in a country outside Australia. And that document has to be lodged by the 30th of June for the year you are going to make that overseas expenditure claim within your research and development expenditure claim. So the overseas finding is very important if you are undertaking work overseas. You can then produce a budget and a research and development plan. Now, for companies with turnovers under $20 million, it is not a requirement of the legislation that you have an R&D plan, but it is strongly recommended, because part of this process is to clearly establish that you had a clear strategy of what was being done, what you were trying to achieve, that you've documented it, you've also developed the budget and you've submitted it to the board of directors for approval. Because the government has based a lot of its thinking and its legislation relative to research and development on what the perception is would happen in universities. And they go about researching with a planned process. They allocate funding for it. And then they get feedback reports. They're expecting companies to do exactly the same thing. Big companies find this quite easy because they're the systems that they've got in place. For small companies, this can be far more difficult, and you need to get advice from people who have developed systems to assist you in this recording process. So getting ready. I've already mentioned team members, confidentiality agreements, assignment of intellectual property, very, very important. And don't assume that because they already work for you, that they are covered. There may be no mention of research activities, and your lawyers, I'm sure, will be saying to you, for an abundance of caution, you need to include that. And if you're dealing with external professionals or consultants or any other sort of contractor, you need to make sure you've also thought about the agreements and what's in the confidentiality agreement and the assignment of intellectual property. Otherwise, there's a very good chance that that external person has a right for a claim against whatever you're developing. And you probably don't want to be in that position if you're paying those people. You may have come to an agreement that a researcher is going to get 20% of the overall product that's been developed. Make sure it's documented so that you don't have a claim for 60% or 50% at some later date when it's known that it's worth a lot of money. You need to identify the work project that's going to be undertaken because the experiments need to be documented so that that's available for Oz Industry to inspect if they wish. It's also very desirable that you've developed task codes so that the team can record their times that they're working on the job number. You may have more than one job number, of course, but then the tasks, what are they doing? And to save them writing 20 or 30 words each time, why not prepare a list of those key tasks, the 20 to 30 words, give each of them a identification code, A10 or A11 or whatever. And then the team member can record that number on each occasion so that the labour time records can be prepared, because you need to be able to justify the expenditure that's been spent on R&D, and probably the most important or the highest cost will be the cost of labour. Also, with your contractors or professionals, they should be submitting you tax invoices. They should have identified the job number that they were working on and the task code that they were performing, so that this can all be assembled into the documentation, put into the file, so that the company has proof of what's been undertaken in the research and development process, so that you're able to develop progressive costing records as to what's been involved. The record keeping is very important. I cannot underemphasize that, but it's on the self-assessment basis, so you must have supporting evidence. There will invariably be a rush from a company's management team to have the company finalize its financial accounts and income tax return and the research and development registration with Oz Industry as soon as possible into the new financial year if the company is trading at a loss, because the directors or the leadership team probably would like to get the cash refund. So everything's got to be done very quick. So companies undertaking research and development are normally fairly busy getting these things sorted out in July, August, September, and as well as their accountants and advisors, of course, in getting this information prepared. So what assistance do companies need? I think you need a research and development system that's established, that can be incorporated within your business. You need your team members to be trained, most importantly, the leader of the research and development activity, and then to give that person the resources to be able to make sure that they can train their team who are going to be involved in research and development in what's involved. And you need to understand the reporting requirements so that the claim can be lodged. That's basically what is done in the research and development. It's an awareness that research and development is the creation of intellectual property. Towers Business Development can assist you in undertaking these types of services, creating the system, and then working with your accountants to ensure that the information is prepared at the appropriate times. In this series, we have some upcoming webinars. The Virtual Chief Financial Officer Service on the Thursday, the 1st of July. Grants can assist funding for research activities. What we've started to talk about today, that's on the 8th of July. Early stage innovation company status. It's great for companies and investors love it. And this is all part of the research and development journey. That's on the 15th of July. You can register for these webinars by going to our website, www.towersbusiness.com.au. So Towers Business Development can assist in the development of a workable research and development system for companies to be able to claim their research and development expenditure. And we will work with your accountants, tax agents in this process. We'll give you guidance on the record keeping, and we'll review the reports for submission to your accountants and tax agents so that the information can be lodged to the Australian Taxation Office. Your accountant or tax agent then completes the registration with Oz Industry and lodges the income tax return. If you would like to get more information on how we can assist businesses in this research and development journey, which covers research and development, perhaps applying for an accelerating commercialization grant of up to $1 million on a 50% funding basis, and the capital raising process the government's put in place to assist young companies who have undertaken research and development to be able to raise capital direct from the public. And the real carrots there are for the investors. Please contact us. Go to our website and have a look, www.towersbusiness.com.au. Or send me an email, peter@towersbusiness.com.au, or give me a phone call, 1-800-232-088. Have a great day. Goodbye. And I hope that your process on research and development activities is very successful and that it really adds value to your business. Have a great day. Goodbye.